Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 15th voting meeting of the Pine-Richland School Board. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Ms. Williams.
Mr. Lyons?
Here.
Mrs. Misbach?
Here.
Mr. Kashani?
Here.
Dr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. DiTullio?
Here.
Dr. Mihalik?
Here.
Dr. Meyer?
Here.
Mr. Moy?
Here.
Mrs. Swope?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before our first recognition of visitors, Dr. Miller will give an update on the COVID-19 educational model.
Thank you. Okay, we are not recording tonight as a podcast. This will be a much more concise summary of just where are we from 2 weeks ago. So this information is available in board docs. We will post this to the COVID-19 website, but we're not recording tonight. So here are the key points for this evening. And again, our focus is on the transition timeline and plan to increase in-person learning for grades 4 through 12. We are taking that shift. So we said at the last meeting that the conditions and cases continue to head in a beneficial direction, right? They're reducing, lowering, improving. And so in addition to the conditions, we also know that vaccination, which is a part of this, is increasing significantly. We've seen the vast majority of Pine-Richland educators vaccinated, or at least have the first shot if they're in the Pfizer or Moderna. But for those who want to be vaccinated, we've had a lot of things happening within just the last 2 weeks. The Allegheny County Health Department has updated sort of the dashboard. And so if you noticed last Friday in our weekly e-blast, we shifted the format of our e-blast a little bit, and we're pointing to some of the sources, direct sources, so that people can get information there. And so again, what you're seeing here is similar to what I've shared in some of the past Healthcare Leadership Council updates and presentations. But we can see the positivity is now falling below 5%. In our county. That's sort of been a measuring point to look for. And today when I looked, I think it was at 4.6% or 4.8% for the last rolling 7 days. And we see improvements, again, in number of cases and other measures as well. You see our Pine-Richland cases. We'll continue to update this and share it with our community. So everybody who wants to be informed gets this every Friday, and they'll continue to get this information from us. And this, again, we have that responsibility to count how many relevant cases happen within a 14-day window. It's a relevant case if the person was physically present in school during their period of symptoms or based on when they test positive. So we have a number of circumstances. If people are looking at this, and then they're looking at this, and they say, well, why I see you increased a case, why didn't that happen? And again, the answer is all sorts of ones. We look at them case by case, but the most common is the person was never in school during the period in which they were infectious or symptomatic or anything. They had been quarantined previously, or they were not in school for some reason, and therefore they don't count. So that happens most of the time, and so this is what we see. And again, it changes every day. We report it on Fridays, but this will be something to watch. We sent out the survey, and we had people based on the information that was out there, we had them make their selection, grades 4 through 12, and these are the results. So we posted this information. We didn't wait for today. We posted it last week once we had gotten most of our responses. We still have some that we're waiting on, but 99% of our responses were in. And so I just want to unpack this a little bit. So if we look at 4 through 6, Eden Hall, we see where things are right now today. We had 59 5-day a week, and that's in person. Most cases, special education programming or some specific student need. We had 777 currently in alternating A to K or L to Z in person versus virtual, and then 196 in full virtual. Based on the most recent survey, we see 745 with a desire for 5-day or every day in person, 75 remaining alternating, and 198 in full virtual. So there's a little bit of movement there. right, in different ways. So some full virtual might be coming in, and some that were in hybrid might be moving to full virtual. So it's movement happening within that. But on the left, what the red numbers are meant to say is, right now, there are about 440 students who come to Eden Hall every day. Beginning this Thursday, the 18th, there'll be about 780 students coming to school every day. So, we've had different numbers at Eden Hall. This year, I think our number is 1,032 or 1,034, something like that. We've had years when we've had over 1,100 students at Eden Hall, and we'll expect about 780 students to come into school physically. So same idea middle school, same idea high school in terms of the red numbers. So the principals are literally looking section by section, class by class at students, rosters, selection, what's happening. So a little bit different in 4 to 6 than it is in 9 through 12 in particular, because 9 through 12, remember, schedules are all over, so kids are feeding into different courses, and some are certain grade levels, other are mixed grade level, and the principals are working through that for planning and logistics. We lifted out specifically seniors in the class of 2021. So just to make sure, seniors are included above. They're in the 9 through 12 row, but we also repeated them down below just so, because there have been questions or input around students in the class of 2021, and that's senior year experience, so I wanted to be able to share. So in the senior year, we see 289 were in hybrid. That's shifting to 97. We see the 5-day at 217 and full virtual of 67. So again, that just gives you a little bit of a pulse on the thinking of students in the class of 2021. We showed this last time, but what's been happening in the 2 weeks since then is every building is looking at what this means for physical distancing. And so minimally, the 3 feet of physical distancing would be available. And so Eden Hall, for example, has modeled that. In fact, even with 30 students in a class, what they have measured is 4 feet on center, side to side, and 3 feet front to back. That's with 30. We don't anticipate 30, and except for, and even in cases where there's large numbers, we can be flexible or creative in how we address that. More likely, we'll have 4.5, 5.5 feet. So that's what we think it will be as we look class by class, biome by biome, student by student. So again, the point of this is at least 3, more often 4 to 5, and in some cases, we still will be able to maintain 6 feet of physical distancing. This has been important. It remains important. We need people to embrace the self-check that has to happen. It has to happen. How am I feeling today? And if there are mild cold symptoms, we want to stay home, and we want to work through that. So one of the best things we can do is listen to the symptoms if they exist, and check on and do the appropriate thing. What we continue to learn is that while physical distancing is critical, even when physical distancing is reducing below 6 feet, proper mask wearing has a beneficial effect. And so we want to continue to really emphasize that and even increase it if possible. And again, our kids have been doing a great job, our staff's been doing an excellent job, so we just want to continue to stay focused in that area and not lose that discipline. So good stuff's been happening there. Again, the community and the community choices impact schools and vice versa. So one doesn't drive the other, but we are all a part of the same place, and so decision-making is important regardless of where it happens. The final thing here, and was a point on our healthcare leadership discussion last week, was about the shifting guidance. So we have had a 14-day quarantine length. The guidance from CDC, PA Department of Health, and Allegheny County has shifted to 10 days, as long as there's no symptoms during those 10 days. There are some other more nuanced considerations, but for a systematic approach that's applied across the organization, shifting from 14 days to 10 days if quarantine is necessary, as long as there's no symptoms, is what has emerged as a next step appropriate. There may be case-by-case situations to be considered, but to be clear and concise in communication, this is the shift that's being recommended. So we're on pace and ready. I mean, we're preparing for this. Transportation, again, morning runs, afternoon runs, what does that look like? Seating charts. Well, there's a lot of details that have to be managed. Cafeteria, auxiliary spaces to maintain the 6 feet when students are en masse and eating. All that stuff has been going on and will continue, but we are preparing for Eaton Hall on Thursday and seniors who selected that in-person option. And then, again, continue to monitor everything as we've talked about last time. We have spring break for everybody, and then continuing the transition after spring break. Okay, so that's the update. So things have continued to move in the same direction as last time, positive direction. And, you know, we've been using every minute to try to get prepared to continue the success that we've had so far.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Any questions or comments from the board?
I just want to add how grateful teachers have been expressing they are, how grateful they are that they don't get the vaccine this past week. That's a huge burden off many of them, that they're very fearful about having more students in the classroom before they had that vaccine. And so I've heard from some that said they were crying tears of joy after they got it. And I'm just glad that that was something that the state was able to provide, and for those who want it, and to have that extra bit of protection and comfort when coming to work.
Yeah, for educators at Pine-Richland, and school personnel is defined more broadly than just Pine-Richland full-time employees. It includes Sodexo, STA, others who support the school environment. But when we think about our Pine-Richland employees, for those who wanted to be vaccinated, we are pretty doggone close to either having the Johnson & Johnson, or a number of people have been able to find either the Pfizer or the Moderna, and been able to at least have the first shot in that 2-shot sequence. But the AIU, who has worked with, the Allegheny Intermediate Unit has worked with the state in order to create a vaccination clinic location, and really has done an exceptional job in helping coordinate and support all of the 42 school districts and so many other types of schools that are in this region. So that's really been going well, and those that haven't had it have an appointment. So it has exceeded what we thought would be in place by March 15th. We're ahead of where we thought we would be.
The IU at their offices in Homestead were vaccinating more people per day than Giant Eagle was able to do at Heinz Field. I mean, it was a tremendous logistical undertaking. Any other comments?
Just two quick ones. One is, this does shift things a bit. It creates some new points of where we have to pay extra special attention. So that 14-day window, I think, rises in importance of the ability for us to track how much is happening in the school, and people need to be ready if we cross that threshold, because that's a different type of response that we haven't had to manage to date. And so I think people need to prepare themselves if something like that does happen, that's a potential consequence of making this choice. And then related to that is the increased responsibility that everyone who's a parent that has kids at home to pay attention to what happens outside of schools, because that can be an extra driver for creating those conditions when we may reach those thresholds. So the amount, with this moving forward, it opens up opportunities. It also creates the need for more responsibility and diligence, I think.
Yeah, that's well said. When we shift left on the continuum, There is a likelihood of increased quarantine. And so it is, we just haven't had it. And I don't think people have necessarily totally understood or appreciated what we haven't had to do. But so the possibility of a parent receiving a letter that says, we're not saying your child is going to, that there was transmission, but they have to stay home for 10 days during this period, that can happen. And the short-term building closure, that's right. That's a reality of a shift left. And so it's just something that people will need to be aware of. And the reality is, some will truly, if that has to happen, and we hope it does not, but if it does, that'll, people will understand that in a different way once it happens.
I have a question. What is our communication model for this rolling window? I mean, are we gonna stick to this weekly updates, or is this something that will be somehow published on the website? Like, this can dynamically change within days, obviously. So how the district plans to communicate those cases?
We haven't talked, that's a great question. We haven't spent much time talking about that. There's not a reason that we cannot publish it more frequently. We don't have to wait. I would say, again, we have a rhythm to what we do now. If we start to see changes, then increasing the frequency with which we update and post makes sense. If we see similar numbers to what we've been seeing, where, let me go back to that, where we have not been, knock on wood, we have not been close to that threshold, then I think we will have the need to make sure that people are on notice. And so, again, I think it's a good question. We're open to that. But right now, unless we were to see a change, I think we're good. If we start to see an increase, then we need to increase the frequency to put people on notice. Yeah.
On the Healthcare Leadership Council, the health experts have much more comfort with more of the data that's coming in. And Dr. Miller mentioned about this, even with less than 6 foot distance, that data that's coming in is showing that the use of masks, the proper use, fidelity of mask use is so important, but that can help to mitigate the chance of transmission. So, using the masks, and so they were definitely much more comfortable and were in agreement as far as this model going forward. So.
Yeah, there's something that came out just late this afternoon about a study, like 5/28, I'm saying, is when I saw it for the first time. So I skimmed it prior to our 6 o'clock committee meeting, but it's around that 6 foot, 3 foot, and it's some, again, new emerging research findings that will likely then be considered by the CDC all around that 3 to 6 foot concept.
Will the rolling window adjust from 14 days to 10 days based on the new CDC guidelines on 10-day quarantines versus 14?
So the 14, there's, again, we've got all sorts of parts and pieces matched together. The 14 days is, I've not heard anything about it changing to a 10-day window. So it's a 14-day window is the way it currently exists in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is the 14-day window. That piece is tied
Right.
to PDE and PA Department of Health.
But I thought that was tied into the length of quarantine.
There's all sorts of things tied into all sorts of things. So
Yeah.
that direct link has never been explicitly, stated or changed. So, again, even the 10 days, while it's the guidance, there are certain areas where 14 is still recommended as the best practice, as the gold standard. So if we were to have, for example, wrestling season has reached its conclusion and was largely successful despite the pandemic. We did have some circumstances to manage, but wrestling's an example of the ultimate high-risk sport. I mean, I know there's some who would argue with me on that. I don't know how you argue around that, but that might be a circumstance where we even consider 14. But the rule of thumb is 10. That's the guidance that's come out. That makes the most sense across our whole system. But on case-by-case basis, we need to consider, what the circumstances are. And when that happens, we're able to reach out, talk with Allegheny County Health Department. Today, for example, Dr. Pasquinelli was able to speak to Dr. Brink, the chief epidemiologist, can specifically talk about circumstances, get immediate specific feedback, and help give us the confidence that we're taking the right steps. So, you know, we don't operate in a vacuum. We work with all of our teams. And if things change, you know, we'll update it. So if 14 were to change, we would look at that. Right now, it's still 14.
She picked up on the second ring. I mean, it was
amazing.
pretty nice, yeah.
On her personal zone.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Thank you all. We'll now move into our first recognition of visitors. Ms. Williams, do we have anyone in the waiting room?
We do, we have 3 people waiting. First
Okay.
one is Nick Guido.
Mr. Guido,
Yes,
this is
hello?
Pete Lyons. You're on with the board.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. My name is Nick Guido, and I live at 429 Jenny Drive. Dr. Miller, at the last board meeting, you mentioned the silent majority as a reason for your decision. I have reviewed the full-time back-to-school results. 2,015 people responded that they would like to go back to school full-time. 34 surveys were not returned. Do the 34 represent your so-called silent majority? Common sense would tell me that 2015 is greater than 34. And in fact, the vocal ones that wanted to go back to school were the majority. I also would like to add that I sat at home on March 1st and watched the last meeting. A motion was made to vote on sending the kids back 5 days a week, and 8 out of the 9 current board members wouldn't second the motion. You had parents outside protesting, along with parents calling into the meeting voicing their frustration. During those calls, you had people checking their cell phone and shaking their heads in disagreement. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Let me remind you that everyone in that room is an elected official, and I can assure you that that image will remain in my head when I cast my vote in May and then again in November. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Stoberner?
Next speaker is Mr. Corey.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Corey. It's Pete Lyons. You're on with the board.
Thank you for taking my call tonight. I forwarded you all a link to an article that ran in the New York Post a couple of weeks ago. It explained a data that had been gathered by a nonprofit called Fair Health. They just pulled a bunch of data from insurance claims. It focused on the Northeast, which is what Pittsburgh is part of. It also focused on the younger age groups. The most shocking part of this survey, which I forwarded to all of you, was the age group 13 to 18. They focused on data from October of 2019 to October of 2020, 13 to 18-year-olds. The self-harm rate in that age group in that 1-year window was up 334%. 334% increase in self-harm. I've talked the last two board meetings about the need to adjust, the need to take in new data and understand mental health. I know that, talking to Dr. Pasquinelli, that there is mental health services available at school. What I haven't heard anyone in the meetings or the administration say is the link between being in school and mental health, the positive things that come from these kids being in school and the negative things that come from them not being in school. I don't think anything what you're doing is easy. I don't. The overwhelming data at this point is pointing to a tsunami, is the best way to say it, of mental health challenges for kids that are in middle school and high school. And we have to do better. I understand the model you created is based on spread numbers from Allegheny County. And I understand that last summer that might have made a lot of sense. I would argue now that 334% increase in self-harm would say we have to look at extenuating factors when we're choosing to open this school or to close it again. And that's my concern, is that we're going to open this school and then you're going to see spread numbers you don't like, and you're going to close the school again and ignore the information you've gotten about the senior survey and the article I just shared with you. I asked you the first time I spoke 2 meetings back to re-examine your COVID model and how you're utilizing it to close the school or keep the school closed. I'm going to ask you the same thing again. I know there's psychological services available through school. Acknowledge the link between in-person school and mental health, and use that information. Use the senior survey. Use the study I just sent you to not close this school again, please. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Corey. We have,
Our next speaker is Donna McWhirter.
Hello.
Mrs. McWhirter, it's Pete Lyons. You're on with the board.
Yes, hi. Just want to say thank you for allowing me the time to speak tonight. I am calling regarding Pine-Richland competitive cheer. The cheer team goes to nationals every year in February. This year, due to COVID, their trip was canceled. It was canceled back in November. Since that time, nationals has been moved from early February to the end of April, almost 3 months it was moved. And many things have changed regarding COVID. The cases are down, vaccines have been distributed, and restrictions have been lifted in PA as well as many states. I am asking you to reconsider the decision to allow our team to travel to nationals. This is a big deal for the girls. They consistently finish in the top 10 in the country, and it means a lot to them. They represent Pine-Richland. Also, a recent article came out last week in the Pine Creek Journal that showed another team, a cross-country team, I believe, that went to nationals in Virginia last month in February. Since that came out, there's been some talk, and we realized that this was an individual team, but a member of the Health Advisory Board felt that it was safe enough to send her family to Virginia for nationals. So I'm assuming that it should be safe enough to send our cheer team, a month and a half later to Florida. I'm sure, working out travel plans, we pay, the parents pay for that themselves. It's not school funded. The money's raised through fundraising. So I'm sure we could figure out how to get the team there. But I am asking you to please reconsider this. And then I would also just like to bring something to your attention. We had Whippeals over the weekend, the cheer team did. There was no shout out to the team. There were no admin at Whippeals. We see everybody at the football games, at the basketball games, and parents notice. It would be nice if we could have that support that other teams are getting. So again, I am just asking you to reconsider allowing us to travel and, possibly maybe showing a little bit of support for the teams when they are at Whitfield. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Do we have any other ones in the waiting room, Ms. Williams?
No, we have one for the end of the meeting.
Thank you. Ms. Hathorn, student and staff recognition.
Thank you. Tonight, we start with the high school. The Pine-Richland High School forensics team won the state championship for medium-sized schools this past weekend and earned second in the debate category. Individually, junior Miles Brown won the overall state championship in extemporaneous speaking. Juniors Andrew Nee and Amish Sethi earned second place in public forum debate, and senior Catherine Lee earned second in prose. Sophomore Sharish Mondo took third in persuasive speaking, and sophomore Kaser Simpat earned fourth in informative speaking, so congratulations. Also, the Pine-Richland High School and A.W. Beatty
Sophomore Jeffrey Turney earned first place in the Skills USA Chapter Display Team competition. He will compete at the state level competition, which will be held virtually on March 29th through the April 9th. Senior Brianna Vadimo Williamson placed second in basic health care, so congratulations. Also, we had 5 Pine-Richland High School students earn induction into the National Technical Honor Society this year. Congratulations to seniors Joseph Peloselli, Edward Walter, Brianna Vadimo Williamson, Matthew Washner, and junior Seth Sudak, who are enrolled also in the A.W. Beatty Career Center. Sophomores Austin Kruljak, who is studying automotive technology, Amara Huff, who is studying cosmetology, and senior Brett Jones, who is studying HVAC. Each received Student of the Month recognition from January through February, so a lot of A.W. Beatty Career Center news. 8th grader Prisha Dargan will participate in the first LEGO League World Festival competition in August. Prisha's team, entitled Next Gen Robots, earned first place Director's Award at the virtual Western PA Championships on February 21st. In all, there were 14 different missions that the team had to have its robots all, so good job there. Also, as you heard, the girls competition cheerleading team participated in Whippeals. The high school boys basketball team played in the Whippeal championship game on Friday, just barely being defeated by Upper St. Clair 56-53. The girls basketball team also made it to the second round of Whippeals. In addition, the swim team participated in the Whippeal swimming championships on March 6th and 7th, and the boys finished 4th and girls 18th. Now you can see all those individual results at pinerichland.org/athletics, which includes 2 Pine Richland records. So congratulations.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rachel.
Oh, yes, I also had Cole Spencer earned 3rd at PIAs, and he had earned the Whippeal championship, so thank you. Who else did I miss? Junior Kaylin Laffey and sophomore Anthony Ferraro placed 4th at Whippeals, and thank you for keeping on top of that.
Thank you, Rachel. Correspondence, Ms. Williams?
Following people emailed the board regarding return to school: Megan Taggart, Michelle Fleming, Abby Lane, Julie Duffy, Nancy Bozinski, Kelly Wargo, Ashley Harris, John Corey, Jenna Kratis, Aaron Rouse, Rose Dent, Melissa Nicely, Aaron Orga, Janine Hunkley, Jackie Wiegand. Ryan Young emailed the board regarding return to school and athletic director position. Heidi Donovan emailed the board regarding return to school in the yearbook. Amy Turchik emailed the board regarding the yearbook. And Kelly O'Leary emailed the board regarding quarantine guidelines.
Thank you. Item 1.06 is a motion to approve the meeting minutes as attached.
Second. Sorry, Mark.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2.01 is strategic plan update.
Thank you. We had a joint committee meeting tonight at 6 o'clock, and we spent about an hour focused on this concept of transformation. The pandemic, even though we were currently in it, has really provided a disruptive event and impact on so many different sectors. And so tonight we talked about what might the future, and by future first we mean short-term future, what might 2021-22 look like? And what have we learned? What do we understand about teaching and learning? What do we understand about students and families? What do we understand about the skill set it takes to meet our mission and vision? And so in this presentation, we're not going to walk through it again in the regular meeting. There's a lot of information in the slides, but at this point, it is a work in progress. And so what we really look forward to is feedback and input and discussion, understanding strengths and opportunities, and seeing what this experience will do for the future at Pine-Richland in small ways and in big ways. So very exciting, a little bit anxiety producing, but we're looking forward to the opportunity to listen, to engage, to learn, to be a part of, and to envision the future. Thank you.
And it really is worthwhile to go back and look at that presentation, listen to some of the discussion. We know there's a post-COVID. We're seeing the beginnings of it with widely available vaccines, returning to 5 days a week. And we talk about planning. Are we ready for that? Not only are we ready for that, we're talking about next year. And what does that post-COVID, what opportunities has this created? So it really is, in some ways, the most important part of board thinking around strategic thinking, not these little motions and approvals. They're important for our oversight. But we're engaged in that sort of collaborative strategic thought about the future of this district on a regular basis. It's easy to miss. It's boring, people. But that's the work. That's the job. And so it's easy to miss, but it's worth going back and looking at. Thank you. We do have a consent agenda tonight. A motion to approve the consent agenda for items 3.02 to 3.06. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion, or would anyone like an item removed from the consent agenda for individual consideration?
I thought Ben was going to wear the full getup and play for us today.
I forgot my trombone.
Oh, okay. Well, then we don't have to break it out then.
Yeah, band uniform's not here either, so.
And Ben got here early and put it in the back.
Is
Dr. Mel.
3.07 not on the consent agenda?
No, it is.
Okay,
Well,
I'm
did
sorry,
I-
you said 3 through 306.
You know, and I was just
Okay.
reading off the top there. Yeah, so the
Okay.
3.06 is repeated as staff services, yeah.
Okay.
So it's 3.07 is the correct number.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Finance, Mr. Kashani.
Yes, sir. Item 4.01, motion to approve the financial reports dated January 31st, 2021, and accounts payable dated March 15th, 2021, in the amount of $22,572.96, and paid accounts for February, March in the amount of $3,275,509.53 as listed.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 4.02, motion to approve the budget transfers in the amount of $58,483 as attached.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 4.03, motion to approve Jordan Tax Service as the Deputy Real Estate Tax Collector for 2022 through 2025 for the Pine-Richland School District at a cost of $3.50 per account and $1.65 per account for the installment process, which includes the preparation of tax bills and the collection of school real estate taxes.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 4.04, motion to authorize the solicitor to initiate real estate assessment appeals of all non-newly constructed properties within the Township of Pine and Richland Township transferred in 2020, where the taxes generated on the difference between the selling price and the assessed value would exceed $1,000.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 4.05, motion to approve an engagement letter with Dinsmore and Shoal LLP for bond counsel services as attached.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Mark.
My pleasure.
Mr. DiTullio, Buildings and grounds.
Item 5.01 is an informational item, and for board consideration at the combined April meeting, a motion to approve replacement of 3 elliptical machines and the purchase of a weighted pull-up dip assist machine for the Pine-Richland Middle School weight room from G&G Fitness through CoStars per the attached. And if no one objects, I would move this into a consent agenda, or ask that it be moved into a consent agenda in the combined meeting.
I think it's a brilliant idea. You're Mr. Consent, Greg.
Since it's a combined meeting, so we won't have another time to look at any other items that are routine like this. So that may, Christine and I can go through and put like items that we've typically moved into consent agenda, because we typically do that at a planning meeting, and then the voting, we move them together. And we haven't really done that with, so to the extent there's one-off routine items, we can put those in there, and just, I'll call your attention to it the weekend before the meeting when you review the agenda. So, because I don't think we've done that typically, but I'm all in favor of it.
It makes
so.
sense, yeah.
Okay. Dr. Meyer, 3 informational items.
Item 6.01 is an informational item about the Amplify Science recommendation, and I will turn this over to Dr. Justice. Or
It's combined.
It's combined,
It's a grade
okay.
6 and 8 joint venture here, but we've been utilizing Amplify Science for those grade levels, and we checked in and ensured that everything is on track with the curriculum, and we are recommending the continuation of the units that are listed there as the units that we will utilize in combination with the other resources that we have for those science courses.
And then item 6.02 is a 30-day display for biology resources, and this is an information item. Dr. P, would you like to?
Yeah, just briefly, this is really the last step in the evaluation of resource process. So we do have a recommended resource. You can see that there. That will go on virtual display now for the next 30 days for community input. Hopefully everybody recalls during the week of February 22nd, there were opportunities for communities, staff, and student additional input. We've collected that. I shared that as part of the executive summary for the board. So tomorrow they'll go on display. Ms. Hathorn already has a communication ready to go. And we'll be bringing a motion to approve the purchase of these resources, both hard copy and online. So we will continue with the recommendation of hard copy books, because for a lot of our students that is their preference for learning. But we'll additionally get the online component for those resources as well.
Thank you. And then item 6.03 is a 30-day display for basic math facts resources. And Dr. Justice?
Yes, we discussed this last time. We are now at the 30-day display period. You can see how the data came out from the staff members' review, and we do have an executive summary that we will share at the next meetings where we have additional information around all of the points on that. However, the email that is going out tomorrow with the 30-day display for biology is also going to showcase the math facts in one place. So thanks to Ms. Hathorn for putting that together. We look forward to the input from the community.
Dr. Campbell, Student Services.
Yes, we have one item, 7.01, an information item for board consideration at our combined April meeting, a motion to approve the French Club for PRHS as a student activity group. It accords with Board Policy 618. And I'd like to suggest we also, if we do a consent agenda, to put that in also, unless any members want to vote "we" on that separately.
I think we should keep it separate just for that.
Just to vote "we" on it? Is that legal? Do we have to get?
I don't know how to say abstain in French.
Does voting count in French?
I think so.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Dr. Mihalik, Staff Services.
Thanks. Item 801 is an action item, a motion to approve the personnel and supplementals as attached.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries.
And item 8.02 is an information item. A Staff Services Committee meeting is scheduled for April 12th, 2021 at 6 p.m. to discuss the 2021-2022 staffing.
Thank you, Mr. Moy, Operational Services.
Yep. Item 9.01 is a motion to approve the revised health and safety plan educational model.
Second?
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 9.02 is a informational item, the PRSD health and safety plan with athletics. And there was anything you want to add, Pascal?
Yeah, I'll take just a couple of highlights there. Again, we added any modifications to the health and safety plan for athletics and activities as a group on for board and community to see, and then we will publish that to the website. But just a couple of modifications. They're significant. Capacity limits have changed. We're now up to 15% indoor and 20% outdoor, so we've modified that. That is going to change again, and we'll continue to keep the board and community updated. But that obviously impacts spectators and opportunities for student engagement. Face covering guidelines have remained the same. We are going to follow the same protocol we did in the fall with our athletics. So that means that during competitions, student athletes will not need to wear their face coverings. The guidance there is we have a lot of spring sports, baseball, softball, boys and girls lacrosse, with the balls in the air and the movement of the mask and the concern for vision. Also with boys lacrosse with the masking, similar to football, it's not recommended. The only indoor sport in spring is volleyball, boys volleyball, so we do recommend that they continue those indoor protocols as we have been doing for our winter programs. We did modify the quarantine to align with the district health and safety plan from 14 to 10. And we also added just a couple of visuals for the community and the board to see around those concepts of larger venues at our stadium, because we are planning for graduation, in-person graduation. So we want to start thinking about what that's going to look like and how many spectators and family members we can bring into those venues. We also have track and field in the springtime. So what they're doing there is they're minimizing the number of teams that come in for a meet. The example on the screen right now and that's in the plan is around a 4-team. There'll be fewer participants coming from each of the schools, but we feel like we have it managed to keep the kids in their pods. They'll compete, and then they have sections off in our bleachers for both spectators and the teams to wait until their event is called. So we think we've got a good plan for supporting spring sports. Our activities have continued to move forward at all levels. So our musical is happening with a ton of work and rehearsal. That's going to be exciting to see both at the middle school and the high school. We've opened up a lot of opportunities for students to engage more in person after school, but we are expecting any of the sponsors or coaches to create a team or activity specific plan that aligns to this plan. So that's why we want to bring it forward to everybody today, and it'll be posted to the website tomorrow.
Then item 9.03 is a motion to approve the advertisement to bid for liquid propane gas, commodity storage and delivery services.
Second?
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Matt. Item 10.01 is the second reading of the batch policy zeros, local board procedures.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10.02 is a reminder. We did just discuss the joint committee held prior to this meeting to discuss transformation and transition in the educational model. We will have another joint committee meeting on diversity, equity, and inclusion scheduled for May 17th at 6 p.m. Reports. I did mention earlier, and I wanted to highlight the role the IU was able to play in delivering the vaccine to educators and school employees throughout Allegheny County. As I said, over 1,000 shots per day through the evenings, weekends, a tremendous logistical effort. So we're very happy to have their support, and we were very glad to provide it. It really does provide, like Dr. Campbell said, a palpable sense of relief to that population that we know we want back with the kids and without worry or anxiety about that. So, are there any other reports?
Yeah, Prof is meeting on Monday, so there's nothing to report. It's just that scholarships are open. Students should be looking at the Prof website or on, Navigance has it also, as far as scholarships that are available, so.
Just one last thing I neglected to mention, and I wanted to thank the board and really community for the ram cage. Again, we've said this before, but this time of year, it's a great example of the opportunity that field brings to us. We have our baseball team, because we have a mini baseball field out there. Our softball team's out there using the ram cage. Of course, all the field sports are using the ram cage. So it's alive with use, and it's versatile in terms of how we can use it for so many different groups. So I'm looking forward to the future of that. And again, it makes me think of the green gym and the versatility there. So we do appreciate your support.
Yeah, drive carefully on campus, because if you pull up to campus at 3:10, there are students everywhere engaged in activities. I mean, it's exciting to see, and to see that done with the attention to detail that Dr. Pasquinelli shared in the health and safety plan. It's awesome. I mean,
Drive
but
about an hour when we started the 7 o'clock meeting. That's the transition from the 5 to 7 p.m. practices to the 7 p.m. practices, the stadium, the ram cage, the number of players over there is just tremendous. Yeah, the amount of use it's getting in teams. Yeah.
I also wanted to add something. One of our parents did something special for the community or for the teachers and staff. Jenny Napolitano, I don't know if you can get this, Steve, on camera here, has made up these signs, and she's selling them to show support for the teachers because it's been a very difficult year with teaching all around and of her staff. So thank you, teachers and staff. You virtually rock with the adaptations that they've had to do this year. In addition to supporting the teachers, she also donates a portion, like people have been paying her and she's been buying the signs, and a portion of what she gets from that is being donated to the family of Cooper Nindle, who is one of our 4th grade students who is battling a brain tumor. So thank you to Jenny for taking the initiative to do that and to make up these signs for the community and support one of our students who's going through a tough time. Also want to recognize that April 1st coming up is Paraprofessionals Appreciation Day. So I just want to say thank you to all our paraprofessionals in the district who do an amazing job this year through various challenges, working in person, working remotely. Very underappreciated group that is really hands-on with our students, and just want to let you know that we appreciate all that you guys do for the school. Thank you.
Yeah, one of our community members actually was out for a walk, saw one of those, took a picture, sent it to me, and then I forwarded that to Ms. Guran, the principal for the PRVA, and she was really thrilled to see that. So I was going to pass it on to the rest of the teachers that were, from the PRVA. So it's a nice gesture.
Thanks, Ben. And you have mine tonight? I got 2.
Got some for you.
Awesome. Fantastic.
I'm not sure if this is the right place to bring this up. Maybe I should have brought it up during Ben's, but I was just thinking about the caller who talked about the competitive cheer. I'm not sure when that trip is and if it will require board action, but our next meeting's not until mid-April. I believe she mentioned it was in April. I don't know what the dates are. Personally, I would be in favor of it, but I don't know if we need to give the administration authorization now that they could allow that if it's deemed quote-unquote safe. I don't know if that's something that we'd want to consider now or if it could be considered at the April meeting. From a time standpoint, I don't know if the administration would need our nod on that.
And travel restrictions have been lifted.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's a big change from.
Yeah, I don't know the details of it offhand, so I'm going to need a little bit of time just to see exactly what the details are, before we can bring a recommendation forward.
Right. If it was something that was going to happen before the April meeting, how would we get board approval or not to the administration if it happens before the board? Again, because I don't know the timing of it. And again, I don't know if anyone would be in favor if the administration looks at it and says, yes, with the way cases are, with the changes in travel restrictions being lifted, then we're okay with it. I know we've given the board or the administration authorization in the past to do certain things like hiring, things like that, that's going to happen before the next board meeting, only because I don't know the timing, so I don't know if we'll get to debate it before it actually happens.
We tried to avoid this, but we have had situations in the past where we had something that we had to move on it prior to a board meeting. We communicated with the board in advance, and then the official motion was at the board. It doesn't happen very often, but it has happened in the past.
Okay.
Any other reports from the board or administration? Ms. Williams, we have a visitor in the lobby for second recognition.
We do. We have Tracy Patrick.
Hello?
Good evening, this is Pete Lyons, you're on with the board.
Hi, yes, thank you. I'm hoping that my comments this evening can create a point of healing for the parent community, and I have a plea for those of us who are on the more cautious side of things, just a plea for everybody moving forward. I do want to thank the board. I have seen them take the responsibility to protect the entire community very seriously. That's what we would require and want of people in your position. Personal belief systems, habits, desires, they have to be set aside when you're making social policy decisions. And I want to acknowledge the tremendous burden that this has placed on our board, and I appreciate very much the positions you guys are all filling. First, I want to preface that with this return to 5-day school decision on the table, our family has struggled tremendously. So we are not foreign to the concerns of mental health issues that parents have been bringing up this entire time. The board is not foreign or unaware of these concerns. Just to acknowledge the impacts of mental health of the last year are not just because our children are not present in school. This is a pandemic. This is a once-in-a-lifetime burden. There are a lot of contributing factors, not just their presence or absence from being in a school building. While we may be the more composed and silent part of the population, I guarantee there is a population that has not been clamoring to be back in 5 days. I am speaking up on behalf of that part of the population. For those who kind of missed this nuance in the analysis of those surveys, after the last board meeting, when it was explained how hybrid would work, it is essentially negating the effect of a hybrid model. That survey was basically the difference between choosing 5-day or choosing virtual. So I just want to call that out for parents who think that this has been an overwhelming 5-day consensus. It is not. What essentially happened was hybrid option was essentially removed for selection for parents, because once other kids are in 5 days, all kids might as well be in 5 days. You're not going to select virtual at that point because the risk population is all intermingling on those 5 days anyways, so you are selecting the 5-day option. So I do just want to implore that while younger people are not dying in suffering severe cases and needing hospitalization, there is evidence and growing evidence that younger people are suffering the effects, specifically of cardiomyopathy, long-term from having contracted and survived acute COVID illness. So while there are risks for young people, there are lifelong risks for young people. There are still risks for elderly, people in, family members, immunocompromised family members. So there are real health concerns in the community that I just want to implore everyone, please be mindful of your behaviors over spring break. You are impacting the entire community. Your decisions are not just in your personal lives, but your decisions are affecting everyone else in the community. So I do just, in support of the board, want to remind everyone that it is protection of the community at large, and we are all still reliant on one another. So please, 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 as we move into a 5-day model, please be safe, please make wise decisions, and be mindful of how you conduct yourselves outside of the school buildings over these next couple months in protection of everyone in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other callers?
We do not.
Thank you, everyone. We will adjourn this meeting to meet in executive session to discuss personnel and a student matter. Have a good evening.